In today's video, we're going to check out Hiboy's Titan Pro performance scooter, and I'll give you my thoughts on what I think at the end of this video. At the time of this video, the price ranged around $1,200 to $1,300. As we look on the handlebars, a key will activate the battery, while you have two buttons, a yellow one activating the headlights and a red one that'll activate either single or dual motor function. An LED battery indicator will represent 25% per each light. A thumb throttle when depressed will accelerate the scooter, but when in higher power modes this can be a little aggressive, especially for beginner riders. The LCD screen is simple to read and is an easy layout, with functionality being simple as far as pressing the arrow button up or down to go through power levels, which each level represents about 10 miles an hour. The display will show total miles on the scooter, along with your battery voltage, along with power being applied, and also your trip distance as well. Each wheel is held in place with a red anodized single swing arm with torsion suspension, along with disc brakes, front and rear, that are cable driven, which we'll be testing these out later, but when the brake is depressed, a red light will indicate slowing or stopping. The Titan Pro rides on two 10-inch wheels with 10-inch all-terrain pneumatic tires. The large deck on Hiboy's scooter provides plenty of room for your feet to be able to maneuver front to back or side to side, and gives plenty of stability, which I found riding the scooter even on smooth surfaces with one hand was doable but not recommended. Overall, the scooter rides real nice, so we'll get into some of the testing. Okay, so after the initial test ride, the bike definitely has plenty of performance. It's got power and everything, but we'll see how long the battery lasts. We'll take it for a ride. But you can see here with the suspension being that it is a torsion style, as you kind of drop off curbs and everything, it does a good job at sucking up and absorbing the initial impact, basically. It's not going to be as good as like a dual shock performance you would have maybe on bikes or some of the other performance scooters out there, but it does do the job. And one thing with this type of suspension, it's probably a little bit more reliable versus the ones that will have oil in it and they can blow out the seals. Now, when it does come to the performance going up hills, you'll probably want it in dual motor mode versus single, but we'll go ahead and take it for a ride now. And as far as getting 40 miles out of it, that's when they use a test rider who's 150 pounds. And usually the conditions are optimal. It's flat ground, it's 75 degrees out, no wind, so it's not very realistic. I'm going to be putting this in position 2 and 3 as far as the power levels. And then I'm also going to be using the dual motor on and off, but I'll probably stay on single about 70% of the time because that's more realistic unless you really want to go hot rod these around. But anytime you do anything that has a motor and you're full throttle all the time, you can expect half or even less than half as far as battery, or even if it's a gas engine, you're going to consume all that fuel up in a matter of no time. You're getting about, 70% less than what is advertised. Now, I wanted to test braking performance because this scooter does weigh a lot. With its dual disc brakes, it actually does a good job, and if you're aggressive enough, it could even throw you over the bars if not paying attention. Now, as far as performance, this is definitely built for it. It can move along just fine and get you all over the city or wherever you want to go quickly, and I even found a spot to do some top speed runs where I consistently got 31 miles an hour. Now, after my testing was done and I was finished hot rodding around, I put it in position 2 on single motor so I could leisurely cruise around. I did find some single track to test it on and found the suspension, at least at speed, could be a little more forgiving. I found the scooter very comfortable to ride. It was non-tiring. I actually liked it so much I hardly sat around at all and got back to cruising around. Now, I took the scooter all over different types of terrain, including this smooth glass, not to mention the single track like earlier, and also city streets. I found the tires to be plenty good enough for the amount of traction I needed to give me a nice, safe, positive feel. All right, I've been riding the Titan Pro around pretty much all day. I've racked up about 25 miles so far, and now I wouldn't mind the bars being a little bit taller just due to the fact that, I'm 5'11". If they were up maybe another inch, that would actually be pretty helpful. If you're a taller person, then you're definitely going to be wanting, a higher bar. Now when it comes to the motors though, both of them when they're kicked on, it definitely has plenty of torque. I'm 200 pounds with my gear and it has plenty of power to be able to, you know, get me up hills, to get me going quickly. It's pretty impressive how much torque these motors have, especially when you kick them on the dual. It'll move along just fine. Now the suspension is a little bit stiff because it is that torsion style. It's not really a shock type, so it does something, but it's not enough to really suck up a lot of the softer bumps. But at least it's better than nothing. Now when it does come to the weight of this thing, I mean at over 62 pounds, it takes a little bit to kind of lift it up into a vehicle. So if that's a concern, you may want to think about that before buying a heavier scooter like this. Overall, this thing is actually really easy to ride though. Okay, so after riding the Titan Pro around pretty much all day, I was able to get about 26 miles out of it, and that was being real conservative after doing all my tests and everything, because I would have burned right through the power. So I was riding on setting 2, setting 3, and pretty much running just a single motor, as I was able to extend the range a lot farther. Now, as we talk about a couple of the pros and cons, I will admit there's more pros on this model than there is cons. I like the grips. They do have a good positive feel. The brakes do work pretty good. It'd be nice to have hydraulic brakes. I think that would be a nice upgrade, especially for the price. That's probably worth it. Now, when it comes to the buttons and the functionality of at least the throttle anyway, this can get a little bit jerky in the beginning. You do have dual motors on. This can be a little bit jumpy, especially for the novice type riders, so you'll want to be aware of that. Now, one thing I did notice is that after riding, I did have to tighten up the neck piece, or at least the bar part. This part here that holds it in place, this actually did loosen up after me riding it pretty aggressively. After, oh, maybe a couple hours each time I checked it, it was just slightly loose, so I did have to tighten it. Not really sure why, but there might be a different way to do this that could be better. Now, as far as the bar length, that is one thing I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit higher. It is a little bit short, so being a taller rider, you're probably not going to like that as much. And then also when it comes to the suspension, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit softer. Now that could actually break in later on, as the torsion of these swing arms, the little bushings that are inside, there's like 4 of them, and those could be replaced maybe for a softer one, or maybe they will just break in, but I wouldn't mind seeing it absorb a little bit more. That way the suspension is just a pinch more forgiving. Now, I will admit I do like the looks of this scooter. I think it looks great with the red and the black accents, especially when it comes to the swing arm. It gives a cool, like, little offset look. So it's something that contrasts against the whole unit, and it gives it more of a performance-based type of look. But overall, I had a really good time riding this scooter. I'm glad I got to test it out. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time.